Today I just want to shit on the SU-101 a little bit because this vehicle has been... This tank has been a very annoying grind to go through. Probably not far off the level of the Mil-1 in terms of how much it annoyed me to play it. But for different reasons. Because this thing is based on a medium tank. It has a poor traverse speed. It has a very good gun in theory. But the gun is pretty much neutered by the absolute just... I don't know... Like, the gun handling in this tank is absolutely horrific. And one thing which I always enjoyed about tier 8 tank destroyers was that they always were able to handle themselves whenever they were bottom tier. This thing though is an exception to that rule. Like, I mean, if I'm playing the charioteer and I see a tier 10 game, I'm thinking, okay, cool, whatever. I'm playing this thing, I'm thinking, ah, for fuck's sake. And I'm just like, my immediate reaction is just like, well, there goes this game, because I might get like 2 shots of damage and that'll be it. And also it turns like a goddamn cruise ship. It doesn't turn, it's absolutely horrific. In fact, like, because I'm probably going to head up to the top of the hill, I'm going to try and show you how long it takes for this thing to turn 180 degrees. Because I honestly think it'll probably take about, like, so let's say this thing here is about 25 degrees per second traverse speed. So that means it takes 4 seconds to turn 100 degrees. And that would mean it would take 6 seconds to turn 150 degrees. So it would take about 7 seconds roughly for this thing to turn 180 degrees. That really puts in perspective how bad the traverse speed is on this tank. It's absolutely horrific. And it doesn't need to be that bad because this thing doesn't have the armor that you would expect from this line. It's a really annoying situation where this tank feels like it should have been at least decent. But for some reason Wargaming, when they were balancing it, decided, okay, we're going to give it all the shitty aspects of this line, but not the one really good aspect of this line. Which is the mobility, well, I guess the power weight ratio combined with top speed and the armor that this line typically has. They decided, nah, this tank doesn't need to have that. All the rest of the tanks in this line can have that, but this one here, nah, it's okay for this one not to have it for some reason. So yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I'm just not entirely sure why they chose to balance this thing in the manner that they did. It's such a weird decision. Also, I'm going to try and get a shot in your track if I can. Never mind, we ended up killing him off. Well, I didn't kill him off, but like me and that guy there helped kill that guy off, get rid of him. But this vehicle here, its armor just isn't good enough considering the awkwardness of driving it. And because I'm on top of this hill and there's nobody else like able to shoot at me right now, I'm just going to try and show you just like how bad this thing is when it comes to turning like 90 degrees. That's not me slowing it down, that's just the natural traverse speed of this vehicle. It is absolutely horrific. And the amount of times it's gotten me killed in this tank, it's such a huge disadvantage this tank just has. And there's not really much you can do about it, because I actually have clutch braking at about 85% on this tank, and it still turns like this. And yeah, the armor on this thing as well just isn't good enough. Like, its armor's nowhere near the level you would need it to be at in order for it to really be able to consistently handle itself against equal tiered vehicles. Never mind higher tiered vehicles. Higher tiered vehicles, forget about it. Also, look at how bad the gun depression is. The gun depression on this thing is absolutely horrific. It is absolutely abysmal. And yeah, there is the rate of fire of this gun in play there, and this guy's probably going to kill me, I'll be honest, because it's a heavy tank, and heavy tank guns typically are good enough to be able to go through this thing's armor with no real problem. I'm hoping somebody else will help me kill this VK, because this VK is very likely to be the one to finish me off here, because, you know, it's a VK 100, and I'm honestly kind of stunned he wasn't the one to kill me. Because honestly, 9 times out of 10, if there's a heavy tank shooting at me, I expect their shots to go straight through me because this thing's armor is just not good enough. Like, I mean, that's a Skoda T27 shooting up at my upper front plate, and I can see why he's bouncing off. But yeah, something like a Pershing, when he's firing gold rounds in particular, is just going to go straight through your armor as if it's nothing. So this vehicle, honestly, I just feel like is nowhere near as good as it should be. It's a vehicle which just annoys me to an insane degree because it just it feels like it should have been so much better than it is, because it's low profile, it's fast. Even though the traverse speed's crap, if the armor was decent, then it would at least have an excuse for the bad traverse speed. But unfortunately, because they gave it shitty armor combined with the crappy traverse speed, it just means that the tank just feels awkward and it's not very much fun to play. Then you also have to take into account the absolutely atrocious gun handling, and then you get to probably the worst aspect of this machine, and that is that whenever it's bottom tier, unlike all other tier tank destroyers pretty much, it can't handle itself. And the reason I say this thing can't handle itself whenever it's bottom tier is because of comparisons like this. Now, this is a bit of an extreme comparison. Also, I'm just going to quickly just go through the results to see how it did in comparison to the rest of the team. I guess I did okay in that match for the most part. Not really anything to write home about, but it's something which is okay, I guess. But the comparison to the Jagdpanther 2 is honestly something which is pretty devastating whenever you just do the comparison just at a glance. I mean, this is with the same setup, rammer, vents, and binoculars, no brothers and arms, no nothing. And then you compare the SU-101, same setup, no differences, no advantages to either side in regards to their setup. And then you look through the stats, and you see that the SU-101 has 12 more penetration, it has a better part of weight ratio, and on paper it has a better armor as well, because the armor on this thing is, well, at least on paper, it looks better. But weirdly, and this is something which I really hate that Wargaming has a very bad habit of doing, they put the hull armor on tank destroyers as either the hull armor or the casement armor. In this case, this 150mm of armor is for this section up here, not for this section. This section is 120mm. For the Jagdpanther 2, it's the opposite way around. It's 100mm down here, but I think it's like 150mm up here. So I don't know why Wargaming is so inconsistent with that, and they keep messing up the numbers and shifting it between each vehicle. I mean, if you look at, say, something like the, what's it called, the WZ-111 GFT, whatever it's called, where's that? China, where are you? There you are. Let's see, if I look at this thing here, and just look at its armor stats on paper, it says 180mm. That's for the casement. If they're going to use casement armors, use casement armors as the stat. Don't change it between vehicles. I mean, it's something which is, it just annoys me with the inconsistency and like how they keep changing it between vehicles. So when it comes to the comparison between these vehicles, those are like the three areas where the SU-101 is technically better than the Jagdpanther 2. But you'll have noticed that there's a lot of green on the right hand side and not very much on the left hand side in comparison. Because, well, even if you look at the traverse speed, the traverse speed on the Jagdpanther 2 is about 14 degrees better. 14 degrees per second better. The view range on the Jagdpanther 2 is better as well. The tank's top speed is 1 km/h faster, and the part of weight ratio, while it's worse, isn't that much worse, and the traverse speed is going to help out a lot in terms of the flexibility of the vehicle. The armor on the casement, I would honestly say from memory, is better than the SU-101. The alpha damage on the Jagdpanther 2's top gun is 50 better. Yeah, sure, it has 12 less penetration, but I really don't think that matters in the long run. It still has tier 10 levels of penetration. The rate of fire is higher on the higher alpha damage gun, and you can see here this thing is able to fire shots in under 10 seconds, whereas the SU-101 takes 10.6 seconds, which is kind of funny considering the Jagdpanther 2 has, well, a higher alpha damage as well as a faster rate of fire. And you can see this has a massive impact on the DPM between the two vehicles. There's like the I was about to say the SU-101 is behind in terms of shots per minute by pretty much a round in comparison to the Jagdpanther 2. Say if both these tanks had the same guns, the SU-101 would effectively be firing 5 rounds a minute in comparison to the Jagdpanther 2's 6 rounds per minute. And you can see the difference that has on the DPM. It's absolutely catastrophic. And the aim and time, the accuracy, that's easily what I think is probably the most important aspect of these vehicles. Look at how horrific the accuracy is on the SU-101 in comparison to the Jagdpanther 2. That is why the Jagdpanther 2 is able to perform whenever it's bottom tier, whereas the SU-101 can't. And then you also have to look at the gun depression as well, where the Jagdpanther 2 has double the gun depression of the SU-101. As soon as you make that comparison, as soon as you see the differences between the vehicles, you can't help but say, holy shit. Like, this tank looks like a tier 7.5 in comparison to the Jagdpanther 2. And honestly, I think it's true. This tank just doesn't hold a candle to the Jagdpanther 2 in any shape or form. And you might be saying it's a bit biased to like compare it to one of the better tier 8 tank destroyers. But considering Wargaming recently reworked this vehicle along with the 268 V4 line, or as well as 268 V4 being introduced into the game, and the Jagdpanther 2 basically hasn't changed in about 7 or 8 years. It really is damning like how bad this tank looks in comparison. So yeah, that's honestly my opinion on the SU-101. Like, I just think it's a bit shit in comparison to its competitors, and I'm really looking forward to the 263, because the 263 appears to have both the armor that this line should have as well as the firepower, because I'm looking forward to having this 130mm gun, which looks pretty monstrous. The accuracy is still shit, but at least it'll have the armor to go along with, well, pretty much the theme of this line. So yeah, looking forward to getting through this thing, and looking forward to getting to tier 9.